All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of Riding Shotgun with Charlie. This is one of the pit stops that we are doing at the NRA annual meetings in Houston in 2026. And we want to thank the NRA for having the Voices of the Second Amendment Media Row. I hate calling it Radio Row, but Media Row is kind of what it is here. And there's a lot of people creating content, podcasters and YouTubers and video folks and all sorts of great stuff. So we want to thank them for having us come down and be part of that. This pit stop is going to have Michael Sodini, who I've had on a number of. I've had you on a bunch.
You've had me on a bunch. You've had Walk the Talk adjacent people on there too. And
yes, I've had Jake on. I've had you on. We've done the shows with Matt Mallory. I think we did a show at SHOT Show a couple years ago.
Yeah, I think so.
You've always got stuff going on with Walk the Talk America. And this is great. So what's been new and exciting with Walk the Talk America?
So that's the hardest part about Walk the Talk America is it's always changing, right? Like it's always evolving. It's like water. It flows. Yep. So at any given time, and that's what's cool about being nimble, we can focus our energies on certain things. But at the same time, we still have our regular programs that we have to do. So I always tell people all the time, it's like I feel like every year people are asking me, like, what are you putting out on the next album? And I'm like... you know what I mean? But things do come up, and one of the things that I'm really excited about is our work in the research community, which we've been doing recently.
Yeah.
Right? Research to gun people, or our community, has historically always been they're looking for the negative. And I've been invited into the research world and attended a couple conferences and spoke at these conferences. And I'm really trying to change the energy. I'm trying to get them to focus on, let's not always research the negative outcome of a firearm. Let's start looking at some of the other positive things or some of the detriment, like how laws can be detrimental, right? Like, why don't we start looking at things like, are red flag laws preventing people from getting help? Nobody studies that. They only study our red flag laws saved X amount of lives, right?
Yeah.
So kind of just getting them to change the way they look at things has been special, you know.
Yeah, that's really cool. It is important to change things because, we always have the negative, guns are always put in a negative light by everybody. And particularly when it comes to mental health, you want to be careful that you want to be careful how you say things and how you phrase things and who you talk to. And some people don't want to share with somebody that they're having a crisis, they're having a hard time, they're depressed, they hate their job, they're not happy with their marital situation, Yeah,
it's one of those things where we all know crisis is temporary, right? By nature, gun people, we tend to be protectors, right? People, like the non-gun people, look at it. How many times have you heard, if something goes down, I'm standing behind you because I know you have a gun. And you're like, I didn't sign up to be squad leader.
I tell once I became a gun guy and you started to save a little bit of food here and there, people are like, oh my God, if something happens, we're coming over to your house. I pat him on the stomach. I say, fatten up because I got some sweet baby rays. Like, if you don't have anything that can be productive, we're going to eat you. So you're going to help out somehow.
No, but so, naturally we're like the sheepdogs. We kind of white knuckle it through things. I mean, as gun, the whole industry is kind of like that. The whole community is like that. And we've always been terrified of kind of showing weakness because we could lose that right. And in some states you actually can, So it's important that, they have organizations like Walk the Talk America to go to kind of guide them through the process in their particular state, right? Of like what you can and cannot do, who can take what, that type of thing. But, getting into the research community and behavioral health and literally becoming a staple in that community as a voice that's completely pro 2A has been kind of special. Like one program that we're doing, it's fairly new, it's called ROOTS. It stands for Responsible Ownership, Outreach, Technology, and Safety. What we're trying to do is shine a light on all the safety companies that come from the firearms industry that get ignored by the firearms industry, not because we're not into safety, but they just can't compete with the Rugers and the Smith & Wessons.
Right.
You think about, usually these safety products are one SKU items, so the distributors ignore them, the rep groups won't represent them, so they don't have the representation in the firearms industry. And outside of the firearms industry, research and behavioral health doesn't even know these things exist. So what I've been doing is setting up tables at research gatherings, conferences, and having a roots table there, showing them all the different safety products that have come out from the firearms industry, because these are the people that have the grant money that could actually come in and buy, I need a couple hundred of these for a study we're doing.
Yeah.
And they could start seeing some of the things that we have to offer as an industry. Does that make sense? Like, it's just like showing the rest of the world, we're into safety, we're into responsibility. We do have really cool technology that you don't even know about, because everyone always just think, what do they think of when they think of safety? Cable lock. We all know those go right in the trash.
Oh,
right?
totally.
The message that comes with the cable lock is more important than the actual cable lock itself, because no one's using it. But there's some advancements in technology that we have that we need to bring to the table. I'm very much let's be on offense type of guy for our industry.
Absolutely, and that's a great thing to be, because we lose these things little by little. It's the salami method, like slice by slice.
Yeah,
and it's hard to get them back.
Yeah, it is. And, you talked about, right before we went on air, you talked about kind of you're in Massachusetts. In
Massachusetts, yeah. So here's the down and dirty. So we had in 2023, we had this politician that had to go around, and he was tasked with revamping the Massachusetts gun laws. He had a lot of non-gun people talk about what we should do to improve things. I remember specifically one lady that got up there and said, I didn't know anything about this until today when I was invited, and so I looked up some of the gun laws. I'm completely bowled over that a 15-year-old can get a shotgun and carry it down the road. And I got up there and I said, it's not quite how you phrased it. A 15-year-old has to have their parents' permission. They have to sit through a safety course so they can have a shotgun to go hunting. They just can't walk down the road. So all of this... The law passed the state house, the law passed the state senate, and in the summer of 24, I call her our AGG, our anti-gun governor, Maura Healey, signed the bill into law, and it was a huge change on all the training aspect. And what we needed to do in order to get a license, somebody had to have live fire, a written exam, suicide prevention, injury prevention, and disengagement training. And there was a group of people that got together to sign a petition to say, hey, you can't really do that this way. So they got, just before they got enough signatures to say this needs to become a ballot issue, she decided to sign an emergency preamble, and then the emergency preamble gave them a year and a half to get their stuff together. There's the backstory. So the period ended on, the year and a half ended on April 2nd, 2026, so just a couple weeks ago. The suicide at the beginning of March of 26, they sent us an email, 16 pages of suicide awareness, whatever it is. I read through it. There was one slide on pesticide and Sri Lanka. Okay. Right. And so I tell people this, and they're like, what are you you're teaching a gun safety class, but you got to talk about pesticides in Sri Lanka? And according to this slide, there in the 90s, there were the people in Sri Lanka had access to human toxic pesticides, and they would use this to commit suicide. And once they made it illegal to have the human toxic pesticides, suicide only went down by 50%. But what they were trying to say is, if you have a gun, you're more likely to commit suicide, just like the people in Sri Lanka who had access to
the pesticides.
Access to the pesticides used to commit suicide. And everyone's like, this is insane. I'm like, I know, it's a little crazy. I don't know if we have to go through the PowerPoint with them, or if we have to give them a printout of the stuff to consider it that we've covered it and whatnot. But I thought it was really cool that reading through the material, they did say you should check out Walk the Talk America website, and they didn't even let you know that they did this.
No, that's why it was a nice surprise. I mean, I thank them for that, and that's why we created that, actually, because what had happened is I remember I was at, I think, USCCA show, and we had a bunch of instructors coming up, and they were in states that saw this coming, right? Like, they're like, yeah, New York and Massachusetts, and I think there's a couple of them, right? It's always the same
It's always
characters.
California and the Northeast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I remember these instructors were like, hey, they want us to talk about this for an hour, and I was like, well, what do they want you to talk about? And every one of them was the same. They're like, they don't know. They just want us to talk about mental health and suicide prevention. So I was like, oh, they're like birds that want to fly south but don't know why.
Right.
You know what I
That's
mean?
a great analogy.
Yeah, and so we put together the hour-long, it's free on our website for anybody to use, a course that you basically can just hit play. You know what I mean? And it covers everything. It covers everything that we thought would be important when it comes to suicide, mental health, and your firearms plan. And I think it's been well received. I mean, so the best compliments are the ones that come from when it's the people that aren't in the firearms industry that are like, hey, I saw that course. I think it's awesome. It gave me a lot to think about. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's one of the things I'm proud of. And we offer this. We're completely funded by the firearms industry. Right? And all these solutions that come out of Walk Talk America, they're ours. When I say ours, the firearms industries. That, and that's why I love that it's being pushed forward. It needs to be, because you don't want it coming from somebody else. You don't want it coming from
I always tell people, it's like if I wrote I wrote a book, we got together and wrote a book. It's called What to Expect When You're Expecting to Have a Baby.
Right.
What? What are you talking about?
Right.
Right. We've got a books on
brain surgery. I have one on brain surgery.
Right.
Left-handed Western grip stock. I don't know.
Right. I'm a teetotaler. Right. I'm a teetotaler. I'm going to write a book on mixology. Right. What? No, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It's taken taking a what do you call it? You go to the gym. A personal trainer. You get a personal trainer who's 50 pounds overweight. You're not gonna listen. You're not gonna listen.
Yeah, it's important that we keep having these conversations with you show up to these meetings, show up to these conferences, the ones that'll let you in there, and have these conversations and be able to bring up these points, right, in a healthy, nice manner. I always say, like, there's two fights to this. There's the way that I'm doing it, and then there's the guys that are on the front line, right? The NRAs, the GOAs, and that get into the weeds with the lawsuits and things like that. But there's this other side. I think for the most part, most people are just gun ignorant. They're not necessarily anti-gun. They just haven't met somebody yet that's been able to communicate that, right? And I think Walk the Talk America does a good job of kind of making people curious and then feeling, I tell people all the time, listen, you think you hate guns, and there's nothing wrong with you hating guns. You don't really hate guns. You hate people being hurt and dying.
Right.
And we
do
have
too.
the same. Yeah. We have the same outcome. Do we want to stop the same outcome? We just have a different way of how we're getting there. You know what I mean? Like we're taking two different paths. But, it's like you keep fighting the good fight, and, I'm going to continue to work with some of I got some research coming out, like some projects with some pretty big name, universities that you would have never guessed would have done anything positive for guns. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah, so
that's awesome.
I'm looking forward to next year.
Hey, we got a few minutes left. Tell us about the Kids to Kings program that you've been working on in Buffalo.
Yeah. Well, University of Buffalo is now studying our Kids to Kings program, which is awesome. I've been begging researchers to look at that. It's an inner-city youth violence prevention program that basically introduces firearms in a healthy manner to kids that historically would only get their firearms knowledge from video games,
movies and all
movies,
that. Right,
maybe
all the stuff
videos, music, and also two people maybe that aren't necessarily caught up on responsible gun ownership, right? We're not judging. It doesn't matter. But what we do understand is that healthy, responsible gun ownership needs to be introduced to these kids as well. It's not just for little white hunters in orange vests in Minnesota, right? Like, it's for everybody. The Second Amendment is for everybody. And this program has been going on for around 5 years in Atlanta. It's a pilot program. We've never had one negative incident with a firearm with our kids. And they handle guns better than 90% of the people in this room, right? And I've just been begging researchers to look at this because I don't think it's something that they've ever thought possible. It's almost counterintuitive, right? And every time I speak in front of behavioral health or research, there's always one person in the crowd that swims out to the racist part of the pool and says, is it a good idea for us to be putting guns in these kids' hands? And I'm like, what do you mean, these kids? Right? And it happens
as Joe Biden would say, we mean the poor kids.
You're right. Every time. And it's kind of like you watch the crowd, especially if you're a black or brown person, and they're like, wait a second, this is different. You know what I mean? Like this, I can get with this because it's not just about handing kids guns. We have a financial literacy component that we add to it, life experiences. We talk about mental health. If you you have a bad week and you didn't do your homework and your grades are slipping or you're acting out, you're not shooting. You're sweeping up brass. Like, everybody at Kids the Kings, Kevin Dixie, Devin Perkins, Harrison, all the instructors there, they run a tight ship, and it really shows the kids in the way that they behave and the way that they handle guns, and these kids will grow up to have their own gun shops and be competition shooters and work for Ruger and work for Glock, because I brought them to NRA last year and I was introducing them to...
I remember seeing that,
Yeah, I was introducing them to... It was important. If one of the kids has an engineer mind, I wanted him to talk to an engineer from Ruger. You know what it's like to have the president of a Ruger or the owner of Glock look you in the face when you're a kid and say, if you want to come work here one day, you can? You know what I mean?
That's wild.
Yeah, so it's something completely different. I'm super proud of that program. I think it's something that could be nationwide one day.
Yeah.
I need University of Buffalo to study it and then prove it, and then we go like a rocket. You know what I mean?
That's cool.
Yeah, so.
That's awesome, man. You got so much stuff going on. I love it.
Yeah, it's too much. Too much.
I say blessed with work. Blessed with work.
It's been a fun ride.
Yeah. Listen, we need to wrap things up. Thank you so much for being on, man. This is a pleasure.
Dude, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Whenever I can get you on, I will be more than willing to have you on anytime I can.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Charlie. I really do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, man. Well, listen, we need to thank you guys for listening to this episode. We are going to put some links to Walk the Talk America below. I actually had a friend of mine who had one of her good friends pass away recently, and she's been in a funk. Absolutely. And I said, listen, you know what? You should talk to someone. And she's like, ugh. And I'm like, really? You know what? I sent her a link. I'm like, do the free and anonymous. And she's like, okay, I'm officially depressed. I'm like, all right, what are we going to do to get you out of this?
I love that you're telling me this, though. I love that worked. And that's why you don't have to be depressed or in crisis to take the screening. The screenings are great just for self-awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So it's there for people. You should go to WTTA.org
or walkthetalkamerica.org or social media if you want to check us out there at Walk the Talk US, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter.
All right, we're going to put all that stuff there below. Thanks for being on the show, Mike. If we want to thank the NRA for hosting us or letting us be here at the Voices of the Second Amendment in Houston on their Media Row. This is great. I've been seeing so many content creators walking around all morning, and I want to catch up with all of them. And thank you guys for listening to the show. If you've made it this far, you should share with your friends, because that is how we get the stagecoach across America. We'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks a lot.